Good morning, Fuse Nation. You are watching a brand new Sports Fusion episode. I'm your host, Alex Fuse. We have a big show for this morning. On the phone now, she is a sports reporter for News Channel 10 here in upstate New York, Miss Liana Bonavita. So, Liana, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty well, Alex. Thanks for asking. I woke up pretty bright and early to help out my station pass out some backpacks this morning for our morning show. We're between 5 and 7 or so. So, been an early morning, but I am ready to go.
That's great. So, lots of sports news around here. The Yankees won last night in extra innings, and they've had some trouble with extra innings baseball this year. Were you surprised that the Yankees came out on top after that long rain delay?
They were up. So when you go into a rain delay and you're winning, I guess you have the better chance of coming out on top. That said, Masahiro Tanaka had to be taken out of the game, and he was going pretty strong. So when you have to go to your bullpen to get you 4 innings, you just never know. But for them, they needed that game. The Yankees needed that game against the Royals, who are ahead of them in the wild card standings. And so it was a gutty win for sure. I'm guessing Joe Girardi would have preferred them to do it a little bit easier than the way that they did. That said, a win's a win,
Yeah. And one team that hasn't really been winning since the All-Star break is the New York Mets, across town from the Yankees. Where do you see this Mets team going? They're broken down. A lot of injuries hit that starting rotation for the Mets. So where do you see the Mets being from a few weeks from now?
This is a tough question because the Mets have potential, and you see it from game to game. They'll go out there and they still have a starting rotation that should be very good while banged up, I understand, and they're not completely healthy. They have pitchers that can go out there and get the job done. The issue is whether or not their lineup can hit during that time. It seems like they haven't been able to be consistently putting in an effort on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball in the same game. That said, they're still not too far out in this wild card race, and so I think that they'll make a push. It's going to be tough here. The teams ahead of them, obviously the Pirates, and they're good teams that they're chasing down. So the Cardinals, obviously. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens here, but I don't. Okay, let me put it this way: I don't like them this year at this time as much as I liked them last year at this time. I don't think that they got that rallying force in Jay Bruce that they did in Cespedes last year. But we're just gonna have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. So we'll switch gears now to the NFL. The Jets and the Giants. I don't know about these two teams this year. The Jets signed quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. So where do you see the Jets fitting in to the NFL season this year?
The Jets have one major issue this year, and that's their schedule. This is one of the toughest schedules of any team that they're going to face all year. And while I don't think they're awful, I think that, bringing back Fitzpatrick, while he is not, I don't think, one of the top elite players. I think he's a decent game manager if he doesn't make mistakes. That's always a big question mark around him. How many interceptions is he going to throw? At what time of the game is it going to be bad? That said, their defense is pretty good, especially up front, and with the Patriots not having Tom Brady for the first 4 games of the year, you can guess, are they going to make a push here in the AFC East? But I just don't think that it's going to happen because of that schedule. They're just up against it, especially in the first, 6 to 8 games of the year. You can't imagine that they're going to come out even throughout those games. And then after that, all the questions start surfacing. They are in New York, the New York media. And that's when it really tests the willpower of the team. So I can't imagine them being much better than 500 on the year again this year. Maybe a couple games over that, but it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and what about the Giants? They have a whole new coaching staff pretty much. So where do you see the Giants? Are they making the playoffs in any way? I don't think so, but...
No, you're against them. Yeah. I mean, Tony Romo going down helps to to a degree, but no, I think I'm with you. I think it'll be it's fun though. Keep your eye, obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. Everyone knows him, but I think he'll be getting double covered a lot. And Sterling Shepard, that young receiver, he's going to be fun to watch. I think maybe getting a lot of single coverage, runs really good routes. I think again their major issue is going to come on the defensive end with so many of their guys being injured. It's just going to be very, very difficult to stop other teams. And like I said, while the NFC East is a little open, I still don't think that they can contend. I think that the Redskins are better this year than they've been in years past, and the Cowboys are always tough, even without Romo. And you throw in the Eagles in there. I just don't see them coming out of this division with the playoff berth.
Yeah. So before we wrap up this interview with you, Liana, I know your major part of your job here in upstate New York is covering high school football, and high school football kicks off this Friday, and one of the main games is Schuylerville versus Shelmont, the team that kicked Shelmont out of the playoffs last year. So how do you see this game going forward? I know Schuylerville lost a lot of seniors, so where do you see this game going forward on Friday night?
Well, it's a lot different than it did last year. I can tell you that much for sure. Shelmont lost 42-0 in the semifinal. So it wasn't just they got knocked out of the playoffs that Schuylerville ended their season. It's that they did it in a major way. And I think that the Sabres obviously remember that, number one, and that provides a whole lot of motivation. But you're right. Schuylerville lost a lot of guys. I will say this. Talked to head coach John Bowen, and he said, because of how good they were last year and the amount of points they were able to put up on the board, the guys that are starting this year, while they're young, while they weren't starters last year, did get game experience. They were able to get in at the end of those games, and they were playing, starting opponents on the other end of the ball. So they do have some experience. You can't say that they're completely brand new, but they are going to face a major learning curve. And while I find the Black Horses run a system that's well coached and tough to stop, I think that, and you see it all the time in Shelmont. Joe Whipple also has a very good system, and he's a very good coach, and now he has the guys. So while Schuylerville was senior laden last year, Shelmont now has a lot of returning players that have been young, last year, and even somewhat the year before, they were young, and so you just need that. You need that experience. You need to take a couple whacks, and it's funny talking with Shelmont and saying, oh, they lost 2 games last year. That would be a great season for most teams, and for them, it was just not good enough. That's the way that this program is run. So the way you asked the question, how do I see this game playing out? I see Shelmont winning, and I don't actually think it will be that close.
Okay, Miss Bonavita, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy morning to come on this Sports Fusion episode.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Fuse Nation, you just heard from Miss Liana Bonavita from News Channel 10 here in upstate New York. I asked her the main question about Shelmont at Schuylerville Friday night at 7 p.m., and she sees Shelmont coming out on top. Okay, Fuse Nation, I'll be back here at noon with 2 Shelmont soccer players. Thank you, Fuse Nation, for watching. I will see you later.